and this is where MAGA comes to talk. Welcome. Make sure you subscribe if you are new. And we've got so much to cover today because President Trump is running such a huge operation here. Then we're just starting to put the pieces together. I did a live stream this morning and went over it a little bit. I'm going to go through it in more detail. Okay, I'm going to go through it in a lot of detail here on the live stream. We'll be live in about 15 minutes, a little less than that. Welcome, everyone. Hey, guys. I'm still setting up. Okay. So, I was talking about my theory of what President Trump is doing on my stream this morning. I'm going to go through the whole thing in detail and take calls when we go live in a few minutes on the air. But I think that is exactly what's going on. And we're going to get a big indication because at 11 o'clock today, the president's having a cabinet meeting live on television. So there's going to be a lot of questions about these things that I'm going to be bringing up today in the cabinet meeting. Now, I want to tell you guys, one of our regular chat room friends that chats all the time, they're working really hard to try to help their family out. And as opposed to putting together a GoFundMe or crowdfunding, they've written this great book. And I pinned the link into the live chat. It's also in the description of the video. So if you could click that link and purchase a copy of that book, if we could just get 10 of you to buy the hard copy editions of that book during the program today, that would be such a great help to them. And the link is pinned in the live chat. And it's also in the description to the book. They've asked if I could help them out, and of course I said I would. Okay, let me check. Just want to check the link. There we go. Yeah, the book is called The Flower Story. So I'm trying to help them out by selling 10 hard copy editions of their book. So if you click that link and pick up a hard copy, pick up a copy of that book, it would help them out a lot. And if you do pick one up, let me know in the chat when you've done it. Because I want to get 10 of them sold for them. So oh man, I tell you, but the things that President Trump has to deal with is truly beyond imagination, isn't it? It really just, I mean, this guy, he's got the weight of everything and everyone on his shoulders. He's got so many balls up in the air, you know, and he's dealing with things on a level that none of us would be able to handle, right? I mean, what he's dealing with is just so amazing that he's able to do it. I wouldn't be able to keep up with what he's doing. If you're new to the program, my name's Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. In about 7 minutes, we'll be live on the air. I'll start the other stream. You know, you're looking at the green screen behind me. When I start my other stream, which I'll start when the show goes live in a few minutes, you get the benefits of the green screen. You get to hear the audio sound bites. You get to see the videos that I play. You get to see the articles I'm covering and everything else. If you're watching with the green screen, you'll get to hear me and the callers perfectly, but for all the graphics, audio, and the sound bites, you have to go to the other stream. Why would you want the greatest president ever to go away? Are you kidding? We're never going to have a president great like this again. There'll be other good presidents and decent presidents, but we're never going to have anyone even close to the level of President Trump. Best president ever, that's right. And if you want to call in, the number's toll free, 888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. It's a toll-free call. And if you're on hold, hang in there. I'll take the calls when we get back, after we get started and I set the stage for what I'm talking about. We'll be live in about 5 minutes. I'm waiting to hear from the radio station. They'll tell me exactly what time. All right. About 4 minutes or so. And we will be live. Trump forever. That's exactly right. About 3 minutes or so, we'll be live. Okay. Less than 3 minutes, we'll be live. Less than 2 minutes, we'll be live. Now my sinuses are bad today. Bye. Dummy. What a name. Dummy. D-U-M-I. Dummy. Oh, yes. Trump for life, man. Trump for life. If you're on hold, hang in there. We got a minute to go. B9 at 66. Thank you for that super chat. Awesome. Thank you so much. Greatly appreciated. About 30 seconds. Or 10 seconds. Welcome to the program, everyone. My name is Brian Craig, and you are listening to Florida's longest-running radio show, the Steve Kane Show, on the radio since 1977, celebrating 48 years on the radio. All right, callers on hold, you stand by, and we have so much to cover. A lot has happened in the last couple of days, in the last 24, 48 hours, right? I mean, a lot has been going on, and I think I have finally put together the pieces as to what President Trump is doing so far as all these strange things that we've been hearing about for the last couple of days, okay? President Trump has done a handful of things and that in the last couple of days that are completely out of character for him. And I'm going to go through them. We're going to talk about them, and we're going to break it down. Now, here's the question I want to ask you, and I will take your calls when I get through this. I want to hear your thoughts on what I believe the president is doing. Now, ask yourself this question, right? And then I'll go through the things out of character that the president has done in the last few days. And I'll do them in reverse. What is President Trump's main goal in this second and non-consecutive term? What is it that, there's a lot of things that Trump wants to do and is doing that are important, right? He got tariffs with every country in the world, right? With this new letter that he just sent out. It's not that. So what is the number one thing that President Trump wants to accomplish in this second and non-consecutive term? What does Donald Trump believe is the most important thing he could leave the country with after he leaves office? I want you to think about that. Now, here, and I'll tell you what it is in just a moment. But think about it. What, above all else, what is the one thing that President Trump wants to accomplish in this second term? Now, the things that he's done over the last few days that are totally out of character for him are this. And I'm going to go through them in reverse. Last night, he had a White House meeting. You may have seen it on television. It was kind of almost like a cabinet meeting, but it was with Netanyahu. And he took questions from reporters. And one of the reporters asked him about sending weapons to Ukraine, and President Trump said that he is sending more weapons to Ukraine. That's completely outside of what you would think President Trump would do, sending weapons to Ukraine. He said it last night. Yesterday, what the big story was Kash Patel and Dan Bongino at the FBI announcing case closed in the Epstein matter. No foul play and no list, case closed, it's over. They closed the case. And closing a case is so unusual in many instances with things that aren't fully resolved. They keep cases open forever and ever. This was case closed. And we talked about it a lot yesterday. Everybody did. People were really upset. And then, one of the discussions yesterday was, is President Trump, was he involved in that? Did they do this without him? What happened here? Are Bongino and Kash Patel scared? What's going on here? Then, yesterday afternoon, late in the afternoon, President Trump put a post out. I'll go over all of this later as the show goes on. He put a post out late in the afternoon on Truth Social praising Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. It was a long post at Truth Social. I'm going to read it to you later. But after all the controversy in yesterday's news cycle about Kash Patel and Dan Bongino at the FBI declaring the Epstein matter case closed, in a very low-profile way with no press conference, they just sent out a memorandum. That was a little shocking, wasn't it? Then at the president's rally on Thursday, he made an announcement, which seemed pretty official. He's mentioned this before over the last couple of weeks, but he made a big deal about it at the Thursday rally. That he is talking about a limited amnesty for illegals that work on farms in America. Now, the first thought with that, when people heard that, and this certainly is a part of it, but it's not the main deal, that if they, to deport the illegals from farms, that's kind of an easy thing to do because they know where the farms are, so the workers are there. They could just start showing up on farms and start rounding people up. And then a lot of the other farms would self-deport because they don't want to get arrested. But the original thought was he doesn't want to do that because it would drive up food prices. And there's no doubt about it. Sadly, the farming economy has been built around this illegal labor. So it is something that farmers, unless you want to have a major spike in food prices, have to do gradually. So President Trump talking about a limited amnesty for farm workers. So you have these three things. President Trump giving an amnesty to illegals who are farm workers. Hasn't happened yet, but he's talking about it, working out some special program. Praising Kash Patel and Dan Bongino for their great work. And when I go through that, you'll see, even though he doesn't say Epstein, he's talking about the Epstein files. So he's letting everyone know that he approves of their case closed on the Epstein files. And then last night telling the media when he was with the Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, that he's sending more weapons to Ukraine, which is against what he's talked about doing in the past. So why would President Trump do these three things and do them very publicly and not try to hide the fact that he's doing them? What's going on here? Now, my first thought was he made these deals to pass the big, beautiful. But when I first started thinking about this and I put these together, I was like, he's up to something, right? He's, the art of the deal, really, the art in the deal is the compromise. So President Trump, as a businessman, the art of the deal is making deals by compromising. So my first thought was he did this to get the big, beautiful bill passed. And that may be a part of it, but not the main part, a small part. And if you know, I knew over the weekend, I saw Lindsey Graham just smiling too much. He looked too happy, and he's part of the military-industrial complex. And then the more I thought about it, after the announcement to the press last night that he's sending more weapons to Ukraine, this is what came in my mind. And this is an addition to something that Judge Joe Brown brought up yesterday. Judge Joe Brown was on Alex Jones, and he was talking specifically about the Epstein case closed memorandum from the FBI. And Judge Joe Brown said he's using this as a way to blackmail the deep state. I'm like, okay, maybe. But then with this thing with Ukraine, it all, boom. A light bulb went off over my head, and I realized and figured out what the whole thing was. I believe that while President Trump has a lot of issues that he's accomplishing that are very, very important and high up on his agenda, they're not the number one. He's got the border shut down. The deportations are going on. Look at the MacArthur Park thing yesterday, right? The deportations are going on. The border is shut down. The Trump tax cuts from his first term, most of them have been made permanent in the big, beautiful bill. He got the tax cuts he wanted on tips and overtime. Seniors got a better deal on their Social Security taxes than he was even promising on the campaign trail. So the big, beautiful bill, he got everything he wanted, but there's more to it than that. I believe President Trump's main goal is the elimination and the dethroning of the deep state. All these issues that President Trump is working on are great and they're important. But the deep state, which is really a secret government, I mean, look how they sabotaged him. Remember when Vindman took that phone call he had with Zelensky, got him impeached over it with the, Inspector General? That's deep state action. And we could go through a whole bunch of lists, So I believe that President Trump has made a compromise on these big issues. Epstein files case closed, weapons to Ukraine, and amnesty for illegals who are farm workers. He's made, and he may have made some other deals that we don't know about yet, but these are three big ones that are outside of his normal character. I believe President Trump has made big deals with important people in power, in DC insiders, DC power brokers on these big issues so that he can dethrone and remove from power the deep state. So my questions to you were this, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. The number's toll-free, 1-888-465-2631. It's a toll-free call no matter where you're listening, 888-465-2631. One, do you agree with my theory? And two, if it is true, do you think that's a good deal that he made? Now, keep in mind that if the deep state is left in power of the government, they've been the secret government all our lives, all these great things President Trump is doing will be completely reversed, including bringing back USAID, which was the deep state organization where they funded all their operations. So after the break, I'll go to the calls, but I want to hear your thoughts on this. Do you agree with my theory or not? And if it's true, do you think Trump's making a good deal here? Now, I want to tell you guys, 1 week from Saturday, come meet me at Attorney Barry Siegel's office in Boca. This is Saturday, July 19th, a week from this Saturday. Saturday, July 19th at 10 a.m., I'll be at Attorney Barry Siegel's main office for his Medicaid seminar in Boca, and you're all invited. Now, it's a completely free event. I hope you all come out to meet me. This will be my first event since I've lost all this weight, okay, from Coastal Weight Loss Secrets program. And also, this is my first Saturday appearance I've done in years. We don't do these very often. And a lot of you don't have an opportunity to come to our appearances because they're during the week and you're working a lot of times. This is an opportunity to come out and meet me on the weekend. I look forward to meeting you guys, taking pictures. I really want to take pictures with people because I want you guys to have pictures of me after my weight loss, as opposed to those embarrassing photographs of me on Inauguration Day before I lost all this weight. But it's Saturday the 19th in Boca at Attorney Barry Siegel's law office, okay? I'm going to give you the number. Call. You do need, it's completely free, but they need to know how many people are coming, all right? It is limited space because it's in his office, and they need to make sure they have enough chairs for everyone. So call, and when you call, they will give you directions. 855-FLA-3782. 855-FLA-3782. And you can also go to the website siegellawgroup.com and get the number there. All right, and I'll see you Saturday, the 19th, a week from Saturday at 10 a.m. at Attorney Barry Siegel's office. We'll be right back. All right, if you're on hold, hang in there, guys. If you're new, my name is Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. We are in a break at the radio station right now, so make sure you subscribe. Now, I want to ask you guys a favor. I pinned in the live chats a link to a book. This is one of our regular chat room family members, and as opposed to putting together a crowdfunding campaign, they're selling a copy of a book that they wrote, okay? And they're trying to support themselves and their family as opposed to a crowdfunding campaign by selling books. So if you click the link that's pinned in the chat, it'll take you directly to the book link. There's also a link in the description of the video, and I'd really like to sell 10 copies of the hardcover edition for them to help them and their family out. So if you could click that link and buy a copy. If you could buy the hardcover, that would be awesome. It's also available in softcover. But if we could just sell 10 of them during the program today, that would be spectacular. Again, the link is pinned in the live chat, and it's also in the description of the video. If you could do me the favor, when you buy the book, if you could just let me know in the chat, I'd appreciate it. So you'll be helping him out, and I would appreciate it, okay? So if we could sell 10 of those during the program, that would be awesome. Okay, now when we get back, I'm going to take some calls, but I want to keep it specific to what I'm talking about here, okay? I want to talk about two things. One, my theory, do you think that's what Trump's doing? And number two, do you think he made a good deal with that? And we'll be back in less than a minute. About 30 seconds, we'll be back. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. You're listening to Florida's longest running radio show, The Steve Kane Show, on the radio since 1977. I'm not going to recap what my open in the first segment, so if you're just tuning in, I will recap everything later in the program, but I'm going to go to the phones. But those of you on hold, I want to keep the discussion specific to what I'm talking about here, okay? Remember, Open Phones is Friday. Do you agree or not with my theory as to what Trump is doing? And number two, do you think that if it is true, Trump's making a good deal? I say yes. All right, let's go to the calls. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, Brian, this is Richie.
Hey, Richie.
You're not going to be happy with me this morning, but I'm going to say what I'm going to say. I listened to your opening with the gymnastics that you have to do. You're analyzing because Trump does nothing wrong. I'm going to break down what I see here. Ukraine, he was blaming Zelensky for an attitude carrying on, and this is my opinion here. And he thought that he could talk to Putin and get Putin to actually say, yeah, okay, enough's enough. Obviously, Putin has really spit in the face of President Trump, and he's gotten more aggressive since President Trump says we're not going to give you the weapons.
Putin's lost his mind. That's true.
And Trump has been forced into doing what he's doing. No gymnastics about deep state or anything. He has to give them the weapons because they're getting crushed. They're getting crushed, Brian.
Okay, so you disagree with my theory. You disagree with my theory. So what do you think? So what do you think Trump's really doing then?
I don't know, but I know he betrayed. He betrayed.
You don't know?
Whether you want to believe it or not.
You don't know. You just know. Wait. Hold on a second. You don't know, but you think I'm wrong and that he's a traitor.
I think he's traded the movement because he said that he would expose
for what?
All this stuff. He's the boss. It's not Pamela.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You say hold on a second. You said that Trump has betrayed the MAGA movement. Why? Well, for what? For what point? Why would he betray the MAGA? Why would he betray his own movement?
Why would he not come through with?
No. That's not an answer. That's not an answer.
No, that's the question.
Why would you say that he's betrayed the MAGA movement? Why would Donald Trump betray his own movement?
Okay, I can only guess. There might be people on the list, and there was a list. And you tell me there wasn't a list? Can you actually tell me there wasn't a list? In other words, there was a list. There's videotapes. There were truckloads, according to his own people, and all of a sudden.
I think with the people that are on the list, yeah, we know it exists because Pam Bondi said so many times on Fox News in the last few weeks, right? So many people on that list are powerful people inside governments, probably, exactly. Right? So so while the list is not been publicly released to us, they still have it. If his goal is to bring down and dethrone and remove from power the deep state, what better way to do that than have that over the heads of these powerful people?
So when is this going to take place, if your theory is? When is all this going to take place? You should know this because you said.
Well, I see that he's. I see him doing things like, as an example, Radcliffe, who's the CIA director now, released some information in the last few days about the ex-CIA director, Brennan, and others, and how they crafted the whole Russiagate thing. By the time he leaves office, President Trump wants the deep state as we know it to be dethroned.
Then, and I'm throwing a couple other things at you. Then they said we're going to.
I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on because I got a full board here. So I'm going to move on to some other calls. But yeah, listen, you don't have to agree with me to call in. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Mike from Louisiana.
Hey, Mike.
You know, you're asking the question, what's going through Trump's mind? Maybe he thinks, we talked about this before about going after the low-hanging fruit, but maybe he thinks he can hit home runs on this stuff. You know, maybe he thinks he can, by making these deals, he can get maybe Clapper and Comey and people like that, and Brennan.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, remember Radcliffe just came out with that thing from that memorandum from the CIA, basically naming Brennan.
That's right.
You know,
that's right. All right, appreciate the call, Mike. Yeah, I agree with Mike, but he was just he repeated everything I've said in the last few minutes. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
good morning, Brian. It's Lisa in Tennessee.
Hey, Lisa.
And hi. And I think you're right on with this stuff. That's something that I've been telling people too. The deep state is just so deep. I mean, we just really don't know how deep it is. And I think that, we've got to be able to trust this man. We voted him in, and he's got so much to deal with. And why not use this over the heads of the deep state, right?
Yeah.
Fight fire with fire. That's what they've been doing.
Exactly.
And so, we've kind of got to, it's so deep. I mean, let's face it, it's going to take many years to filter out all of the people.
Well, I mean, think about it. Think about it. Which is more important with the Epstein list, okay? And with what led to his death. You got to remember that video from Epstein's jail. There's been a minute edited out of the video, right? So what happened in that minute? So what is overall more important? Us having access to this list and seeing what's on that 1 minute of video that's edited out of the Epstein jail footage, or Trump taking from power, removing from power the deep state? Which is more important?
Yeah, it's getting rid of the deep state and the uniparty.
That's right. And if he's got the Epstein files and he's using them to accomplish that, I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that too. It's like, let's get these people out of there. Eventually we'll get people like Lindsey Graham primaried eventually, right? But sadly, Lindsey Graham does have a lot of power, and we just have to stick together. This is the problem with the Republican Party, is there's so many armchair generals out there. It's like, let's let the man lead. He is a genius.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let him do his job.
And here's another thing to consider. All these things that Trump is doing are very important, right? Eliminating USAID, I believe the USAID was the funding arm of the entire deep state, okay? And I'm not alone in that.
Like the fourth column.
Yeah, so he took out so they're weakened. They're in a weakened state with that gone. Mm-hmm. And all of these great things he's doing, shutting down the border, shutting down USAID, these deportations, the list the tariffs, you go through the list. If the deep state remains in power, when Trump leaves office, it'll all go back to normal. Like nothing happened. It'll be a speed bump. So his long-term goal is removing from power the deep state, which I believe is incredibly weakened without their financial arm, USAID. And I know a lot of people, a conspiracy theory. Just because something's a conspiracy doesn't mean it's not true.
Yes, we found that out over the last few years. I mean, my goodness, between, the USID, that was like the bureaucracy is like a fourth column of government that's, demantling now, just getting rid of. But there's also the deep state within the Pentagon, within the FBI,
that's right.
CIA.
Yeah, that's right. And, this could be Elon Musk may know all this, and this may be why he freaked out. Maybe the reason Elon posted on X that Trump was on that list is to try to force Trump to release the list that he knew he wasn't going to release because he's working out this big deal.
Right. And he's an impatient guy. He said that. He goes, it's moving too slow for me, Elon.
And he's not in the compromise.
He doesn't have the savvy yet, of the political savvy, because, that Trump has had to go through, I mean.
That's right.
The man's been shot in the ear, I mean.
Yeah, that's right.
He's serious about this because he realizes it's life and death for the country.
You got to understand, the only reason Trump is not in prison right now is because he won. If he did not win in November, Mershon would have sent him to prison.
Oh yeah.
And he'd be on trial in Georgia right now in Fulton County in Fannie Willis's courtroom.
Goodness.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Listen, I got to run, but I appreciate the call.
Yeah.
All right, if you're on hold, stand by. I want to remind you guys this incredible deal going on from MyPillow. This is amazing. Go to mypillow.com/Kane. And there's where we have our special exclusive deals. mypillow.com/Kane, Kane. And with any purchase, no matter how small it is, you get absolutely free the With God All Things Are Possible multi-use MyPillow 2.0. That is free with any purchase with our promo code Kane, no matter how small that purchase is. Okay, and it's a beautiful pillow. The pillowcase has beautiful artwork on it with that great Bible passage from Matthew, with God all things are possible. And you also got for free your MyPillow 2.0 that has the temperature regulating technology. You sleep on that like I do, you'll never flip the pillow over again looking for the cool side. Perfect for those hot summer months. Okay, and again, it is free. Now, if you were to buy that pillow, it would cost you $39.98. But you're getting it absolutely for free. Go to mypillow.com/Kane. mypillow.com/Kane. A $39.98 value free with any purchase, no matter how small, at mypillow.com. You can also order by phone toll free, 1-800-716-4879. 1-800-716-4879. We'll be right back. Oh boy. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If you're on hold, hang in there. I'll go back to the phones after the break. Oh man. Now, the more I talk about it, the more I believe that that's where we're at. If you're on hold, hang in there. I'm going to go back to the phones after the break. We'll be back shortly, guys. All right. This is our bottom of the hour break at the radio station. Traffic and weather and all that stuff. We heard you the first time, DB. Please don't spam, all right? No spamming, please. I don't mind the disagreement and all that, but don't spam. If you're on hold, hang in there. I'll go back to the phones after the break. We'll be back in 1 minute. 1 minute. We'll be back. Have you guys been catching my new reformatted podcast, taking live calls on the podcast? Remember, the Brian Craig Show podcast is on all podcast platforms. I'll have a new podcast today. We'll be back in less than a minute. Thirty seconds. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. It's the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest-running radio show. I'm going to go back to the phones, take a couple more calls before I recap everything that's going on. But I think I'm making a lot of sense here. All right, let's go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Brian. This is Bill from Sanford.
Hey, Bill. What's up?
Well, here's what I think about that statement put out by Bondi and Cash Patel and Bongino. I think it's still an active investigation, and that's why they did a statement rather than a press conference, because they didn't want to lie, which they wouldn't do, and they don't want somebody to come in and guess what they're doing, because I think that Joe Brown may be the closest thing that I agree that may be what they're doing, but I think it's still, if you read that statement, there's so many things they did say. So I think that they're still investigating, and they just need more time. It just doesn't make sense that they all this information.
Well, did you hear my theory onto what Trump's doing?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
now to bring down the deep state, all these things, because it's not just, if it was just one thing, I'd be like, okay, what's going on, But we've got three big things, right? The Epstein incident, the amnesty for the illegal farm workers, and now arming up Ukraine, and it all happened over a 3-4 day period.
Which could lead to another theory about making compromise to get the big, beautiful bill passed.
Yeah, that's part of it.
There's so many things unsaid.
Well, listen, listen, President Trump, I was telling the last caller, if he had not won re-election, he'd be in prison right now. Mershon would have sent him to prison, and he would have been transferred to Fulton County, and he'd be on trial right now, being in Fannie Willis's courtroom after already being convicted in New York, and he would be in jail in Fulton County during this trial. So the only reason he's a free man is because he won re-election, and they shot him in Butler, and then they tried to shoot him again, and I think when they shot him, and then when they tried to do it again, I think that Trump knows who did it, and there were a lot of people involved. But if you get down to it, it was the deep state. So
I hope they do get for the deep state, but I do trust Bondi and Cash Patel and Dan Bongino. I trust them. I have not lost trust in them at this point.
Yeah. All right. From Sanford, Florida. Take care. Thanks for the call. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian. It's Josh calling from 10745.
Yeah, okay. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
How you doing, Brian? This is Jose from the Bronx.
Jose in the Bronx. What's on your mind, Jose?
Yeah, just a couple of things. Like on the 3 points, I love President Trump. I voted for him the 3 times. But for the Epstein files, we were promised a client list, pedophilia list, and influencers like Cernovich, Jack Posobiec, Babe Johnson, even Elon Musk have gone against the president, just call him out on that. I think that's an issue. That's not an issue for me. for Ukraine, like the president has been working very hard for a deal between Ukraine and Russia, but President Putin is not playing along. So I understand why he's sending the weapons and to Putin's, I think he's saying they're going to destroy him, as we go through time, but it's what he wanted. He doesn't want a peace deal. I think for me, the biggest thing is the amnesty, right? Because Reagan did it back when he was, and we lost California forever to the Democrats.
Yeah.
In order for me to come about the amnesty, I need to know county, state by state, right? Because let's say if all the amnesty goes to the farm workers in California, I'm fine with it because it's already Democrat. But let's say it's in Ohio or it's in Texas or some of the other different states.
Well, let me ask you this question, okay? And just in practical sense, I mean, we know that food prices have gone up. All right, they've come down a little bit since Trump's been back, but they're still high. Food's expensive. Okay, if some of the easiest deportations are the farm workers because they have a place where they go to every day to work at the farm. So hold on, I'm going to answer some of these calls while I'm talking. Okay. So the farm workers are probably the easiest to deport, right? And you don't have to deport all of them. You start raiding some farms, a lot of the other ones are going to flee and deport themselves. If we deported all the farm workers, wouldn't that drive food prices up to astronomical levels and or maybe even shut down a lot of food production? Are the illegals so much a part of that industry that it would be a disaster to go and deport all the farm workers when we have all these other millions that we could focus on while we do a transition to the food industry away from that? What are your thoughts on it?
I get it, I get it. I understand the pricing, but you're exchanging one for the other, the short term for the long term. Because right now in the short term, if he gives them amnesty, they're going to be able to vote. But we don't know what they're going to vote for. A Republican, Democrat, even American Party.
Well, what he's been talking about, what President Trump has talked about, he's talked about this a few times in the last couple of weeks, okay? And it seems a little odd and complex. It's some type of, with the farm workers, he's talking about not an amnesty, but some type of special work status where the owners of the farm are responsible for them, whatever that means. It almost sounds like they're becoming paid indentured servants or slaves or something. It's a strange thing and a very unusual thing. But if we started going to if Tom Homan started raiding all the farms, what would happen to food prices, and would we have food shortages? Is the food production industry so dependent on the illegals to work in them that if we deported them, would it cause massive food inflation, and would we have empty shelves in the grocery stores?
But this is where technology comes in, right? Because a lot of the farming, a lot of the gathering of the food or the pick, pack or whatever, that's all done by machines. So where do we need a lot of labor, right? That this is where all the robotics, all the machines come in, they pick. I've seen a lot of videos where the farmers, they use special machines to pick the crops and everything else.
Yeah, the illegal. When I was in Florida, we have a lot of illegal farm workers because Florida is not just Disney World and tourism and beaches. It's a big farm state here in Florida. And when I was a kid in the 70s and 80s, we didn't call them migrants or illegals. They called them fruit pickers. That's what everybody called them. All the illegals were called fruit pickers. But most of that's been automated now. You're correct. Yeah, they don't pick fruit anymore like they used to. It's mostly automated.
Correct. And this is I think this is where the future is going to be, where you don't have more automation with machines and everything else. Mm-hmm. And you probably won't need them that much. In the near future, you won't need them. But thank you very much.
All right. Well, welcome to the program, and thanks for your call. All right. Now, I want to tell you guys about Jupiter Joe Thomas. Whenever you meet someone who's successful, financially successful, they'll tell you that one of the keys to financial freedom, financial success, is to have multiple streams of income. And the reason that is many, but one of the big ones, and I've gotten this advice from successful people, and I've modeled this to the best of my abilities to do it. You want to have at least three sources of revenue if you can. And the reason you want to have three revenue streams is because if one slows down, you've got the other ones, right? If you're dependent on just one thing, things can be tough. And when it comes to annuities with Jupiter Joe Thomas, this is amazing. Not only are you guaranteed income for the rest of your life, okay, which definitely comes in handy, your investment is never at risk. Your money is always safe. So give him a call. Joe Thomas is offering free phone consultations that you can take advantage of no matter where you're located in the United States. And after that free phone consultation, he's going to put together a custom proposal based on that consultation, one that is unique to you and your situation, your goals, your needs, your resources, all of that. It'll be unique and specialized to you. So give him a call, set up that free phone consultation, and ask him about that 10% bonus that you can get on an annuity. This is amazing. How long would it take you on another investment to get 10% back? A year, 2 years, if ever? With Jupiter Joe Thomas, you can make 10% on your money before you leave his office too. Ask him about that when you call. 561-743-0999. 561-743-0999. And if you missed the number, just go to his website, jupiterjoe.com. That's jupiterjoe.com, and it's right there. I'm Brian Craig. It's the Steve Kane Show. We'll be right back. Yes. Welcome, everyone. If you're new, make sure you subscribe, all right? Callers on hold, stand by. I'll take another couple of calls, and then I'll start going through some of the examples. I'll do a recap probably after the top of the hour, and then I'll go through some of the audio and everything that backs up what I'm talking about. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Yeah, now guys, I mentioned I pinned a link in the chat. It's one of our chat room participants. They've written a book trying to make some money to help support their family, help them out. If you could click that link, and my goal is to try to sell 10 hard copy editions of that book during the program today. It's also available in soft cover, but if you click that link, it'll take you right to the book. It's a good book, and you'll be helping them out a lot. There's also a link in the description of the video. It's called The Flower Story, and if you click the link, it'll take you right there. The link is pinned in the live chat, and it's also in the description. And when you pick up a copy, let me know if you could. I'd appreciate it. I've already gotten a couple of DMs this morning from people. I appreciate that. Let me know. My goal is to help them out by selling 10 copies of that. All right. We'll be back in about 30 seconds. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. You're listening to The Steve Kane Show. I'm going to go back to the phones, take another couple of calls. I will do a recap in just a bit to my theory here with what the president's doing and share with you some of the audio and other materials that back up my theory. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Faggot. Shut the
Okay,
fuck
all right. First dump of the day, Mike. First dump of the day. We got almost through the first hour without a dump, but we got one today. If you're on hold, hang in there while we wait for the delay to re-engage. Our number is toll-free, 1-888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. It's a toll-free call. So what my theory has been, okay, is this, and it's a pretty simple one, that President Trump has been doing a few things that are outside of what he would normally do, all right? He's been doing some things like he's talking about some type of limited amnesty for illegals. Yesterday is when things really started to come to a head because the president was talking about, on the campaign trail and the people working for him, a lot about releasing this Epstein list. And then yesterday, when Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and Pam Bondi had released this memo saying the Epstein case closed, and it upset all of us for very good reason. And then later in the day, the president was praising Kash Patel and Dan Bongino for their great work, which was the first time I heard him praise him. He's been saying a lot of good things about Pam Bondi, but I hadn't heard him say much about, or anything really, about Bongino or Kash since they took over the job. Then last night, when he was with Netanyahu at the White House, the president talked about sending weapons to Ukraine. And I'm of the opinion that President Trump is making deals in Washington to stop and bring down and dethrone from power the deep state. Now, yesterday, I was waiting for this because I knew it would come up. The White House press conference with Caroline Leavitt, I knew in that press conference the Epstein case closed was going to come up. A reporter who I'm not familiar with asked Caroline Leavitt about it, and then Ducey chimed in, and here's that exchange with Caroline Leavitt. This is yesterday's White House press conference. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that was, so she was backing up Bondi, Cash Patel, and Bongino on Epstein case closed. And then this one really caught me off guard. President Trump posted on, by the way, if you're on hold, stand by. We'll get back to the calls in a bit. President Trump posted on Truth Social late in the afternoon yesterday this about Cash and Bongino. And President Trump wrote this: the FBI, under the direction of Director Cash Patel and Deputy Director Dan Bongino, is back to the basics, locking up criminals and cleaning up America's streets. We have the greatest law enforcement professionals in the world, but politics and corrupt leadership often prevented them from doing their job. That is no longer the case. And now they have been unleashed to do their jobs, and they are doing just that. Keep it up, make America safe again. So why would President Trump release such a complimentary thing about Cash Patel and Bongino yesterday afternoon? And the only conclusion I can think of is he was letting us know, without saying Epstein's name, that he agreed with what they did, that he approved of what they did, right? Because he knew there were people all day long who were talking about Pam Bondi resigning, Cash Patel being fired, Bongino being fired, Pam Bondi being fired, all of them resigning. There was all of this attack going on against all three of them all day yesterday. And then, boom, this came out. And, you know, I tell you guys this, President Trump sees a big picture that we will never be privy to. He knows more about everything that's going on than we'll ever know. He's got a big picture going on here. But this message on Truth Social means that he agrees with their decision with that case closed on the Epstein files. Now, why would he do that? Why would he do these things? And the only conclusion I can make is that he's making deals that he has to make to get things done. And as important as the big, beautiful bill is, I don't think the big, beautiful bill would not have passed without making a bunch of deals like this, all right? Because the things that were in it are common sense Republican ideas, and we have the majority. So I don't think these deals were made, and the other things I mentioned, I don't think these deals were made to get the big, beautiful bill passed. That was my original thought. And then the more I thought about it, well, that doesn't make sense because we have the majority. It's going to pass anyway. So why do this? No. These are big things to concede for the big, beautiful bill that would pass anyway because we had the votes. So my only conclusion is that he's making a deal with Washington insiders to bring down and take out of power the deep state. That's all. I mean, that would make perfect sense to me. Now, our number is toll-free, 1-888-465-2631. It's a toll-free call no matter where you're listening, 888-465-2631. And I want to hear your thoughts on this praise that the president gave yesterday afternoon to Bongino and Cash Patel. Many hours after the controversy with that Epstein release yesterday. Is this not Trump signing off on what they did with the Epstein list and files and the cause of death and all of that? I would say yes. Now, if you're on hold, stand by. We'll go to the calls after the break. We don't have time to take calls right now other than to say hello to you. So we'll go back to the phones after the break. But I want to remind you, a week from Saturday, which is July 19th, 1 week from this Saturday, come meet me in person at 10 a.m. at Attorney Barry Siegel's law office in Boca. It's for his Medicaid seminar, and it's from 10 a.m. to 11:30. It is free, but they ask that you call and let them know you're coming because it's in his office, space is limited, and they need to know how many seats to have and everything else. And when you call, I'm going to give you the number now. They're going to give you detailed directions on how to get there. But I will be there at 10 a.m. I'll actually be there a little early so we have time to talk and things before the workshop. So give them a call. It's a week from Saturday, July 19th. Come meet me. My first appearance on a Saturday, I can't remember the last time I did an appearance on Saturday. So it's, these don't come around very often. 855-FLA 3782. 855-FLA 3782. That's 855-FLA 3782. And online, SiegelLawGroup.com. You'll find the number there. All right, I'm Brian Craig. It's the Steve Kane Show. 1 hour down, 2 to go. We'll be right back. All right, if you're on hold, hang in there. Okay. We'll be back shortly, guys. We'll be back in about a minute. "30 seconds, we'll be back." Welcome back, everyone. Hour number 2 has begun. My name is Brian Craig. You're listening to the Steve Kane Radio Show, Florida's longest-running radio show on the radio since 1977. And we're talking about these unusual things the president has done over the last couple of days and trying to put them all together. I'm going to take a couple more calls before I get into more details, but let's go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, this is Art calling from Boca.
All right, Art. What's on your mind?
Brian, the only way to get rid of the deep state is to prosecute them and put them in jail, the ones that committed the crimes they did. And if the Bondi and that group aren't working on that, and that's what's keeping them busy, then I don't know, things are going to be bad in the future, because once they get back control, they'll just throw everything back the way it was. And, of course, what's his name is
That's
can
right.
throw a monkey wrench in the middle of all this, Mr. The automobile guy. So
Elon Musk.
that's
Well,
the
let me ask you, Art, though,
problem.
why would, because when President Trump came out yesterday and gave this high praise to Kash Patel and Dan Bongino.
I heard that.
Okay,
and
so why did, so let me finish my question.
They're working on
Oh,
something.
hold on.
a lot of
My
things.
goodness. Let me finish my question. His high praise wasn't just praise of them. It was him letting, I think, us know that he agreed with what they released about the Epstein files, right?
Well, the Epstein file, I have to treat that's a separate case. I'm concerned with that, of course, and what happened there. But and I'd like to know the truth. But I'm more concerned with our country and what's going on in general, and what and that President Trump can get his agenda through. And so far, he's doing an unbelievable job. Hard to believe how good he's done and gotten things through. Of course, it takes compromise. And
Absolutely.
So I don't know what's going on, but that group of three, they've got. If they don't start prosecuting, I'm afraid all the good could go down the drain.
All right, appreciate the call. Take care. See, I'm of the opinion that not all MAGA people have that you've got to trust in Trump. That you either trust Trump or you don't. And if you can't trust Trump, who can you trust, right? In politics and government. And he knows a lot more about what's going on than we're ever going to know. So I have a blind trust for everything he does, because what choice do we have to accomplish all these things? You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air.
Hey, Brian. How's it going?
All right.
Yeah, I'm Daniel from New York.
All right.
How's it going?
All right, Daniel from New York. Here we go. Yes, you called me. What's on your mind?
We all know why they didn't release the list, okay? There are U.S. presidents on the goddamn list.
All right, second dump of the day. Let me ask you, have you noticed that with liberals, there's a much higher usage of profanity? I mean, what is it? I mean, that's the second dump of the day. What is it with and by the way, this taking the Lord's name in vain, I don't tolerate that. What is it about the left that they have to constantly use profanity? It's a very strange thing. Okay, so then I want to play, now yesterday, Charlie Kirk, who is, he's a Trump insider. Charlie Kirk is one of the 5 or 10 people who played the greatest role in the re-election of President Trump, right? With Turning Point USA, getting out the young vote. He's made being conservative cool. Young people are voting Republican for the first time, and it's the cool kids that are voting Republican. The freaks and geeks are the ones that are on the left. And Charlie Kirk, on his program yesterday on Real America's Voice, sent out really a red alert about something that President Trump's been talking about. And he got some, and he is a guy who's very well connected. I want to play some of this. And when he says he has sources, he really has sources that are at the upper level of the Trump administration. He has sources that are people that are in the Oval Office every day because he's Charlie Kirk. You know, a lot of people claim to have sources and contacts. They just make that up. But with Charlie Kirk, it's true. Listen. That's right. Okay, so why would President Trump do that? Why would he do that? And why would he give any type of amnesty? You know, there have been amnesties. Reagan gave an amnesty, and amnesties not only are incredibly unpopular, they historically are a disaster and cause more problems, right? And they always become much bigger than the numbers that are expected to get the amnesty. Presidents that have done them have been remembered in very negative ways. But this is, this is the biggest issue with the whole MAGA movement, right? Borders, language, culture, shut down the border, build the wall, deportations. So why would President Trump even be suggesting doing something that is so much against the base of the entire movement? If you're on hold, hang in there. Our number toll free, 1-888-465-2631, 888-465-2631. And I want to talk about Coastal Weight Loss Secret, which is absolutely amazing. You know, many people with Coastal Weight Loss Secret, many patients lose 20 or 30 pounds in the first month or two, and my goal was 25 pounds. I lost 25 pounds in less than a month. 25 pounds I lost in less than a month. It's amazing, isn't it? Now, I lost a little more than 35 pounds, and I'm not giving you my before weight because it's none of your business. And frankly, I'm a little embarrassed. I couldn't believe how much I weighed, okay? Because I wasn't one to weigh myself, and then I did, and I saw what I weighed, and it sucked. It really did. I couldn't believe I weighed. It was the heaviest I have weighed in my entire life. And I could see it in my YouTube videos, pictures I took with listeners and everything else. And I was like, oh. And I started Coastal Weight Loss Secret a month before our cruise in March. I started the Monday after Inauguration Day, and I've lost over 35 pounds. which is more than 10 pounds of my goal. Now, you may want to lose 20 pounds. You may want to lose 100 pounds, 150, 200, 300 pounds. No matter how much or how little you want to lose, Coastal Weight Loss Secret can help. And they can also help you no matter where you're located in the United States. Here's their number, 561-247-6300. 561-247-6300. When you call, make sure you tell them you heard about them on the True Oldies channel. And online, coastalweightloss.secret.com. We'll be right back. We'll be back shortly, guys. Hang in there. A little more than a minute. We'll be back. If you're on hold, hang in there. Less than a minute. Oh boy, I tell you what. I mean, what are you? Call me and share. You, if you're on hold, hang in there. But I'd like to hear your thoughts on why would Trump be talking about amnesty for the farm workers? Less than 30 seconds. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian. It's the Steve Kane Show. I'm going to go back to the calls, and you're welcome to call in about anything I brought up. There's some other issues I'm going to start bringing up as the conversation continues, but in the first hour and 15 minutes or so of the program, I think I've laid out quite a bit, so let's go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Once, twice. All right, you missed your opportunity. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air. Once.
Come on, Brian.
Okay, all right. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, Don in Beverly Hills, Florida.
Beverly Hills, Florida. I've never heard of that, but okay.
Okay. Okay, let's say, and I'm sure you're all for protecting the privacy of Bill Clinton and say Hunter Biden and other big names on that Epstein list. And certainly the deep state or the Democrats.
Well, no. Hold on. Those are names that you say are on the list. Since we've not seen the list, we don't know whose names are on the list.
Well, I've heard it speculated many times.
Well, speculating just means somebody starts saying names like idiots like you with fake cartoon voices. But anyway, cut to the chase.
Well, I didn't expect you to give me an answer. Good day.
All right. Appreciate the call. Oh my goodness. The rest of you on hold, stand by. I'm gonna start getting into some other things. Now, the deportations are going hardcore, okay? And there's been a major increase in what's going on. And you may have seen this exchange with Karen Bass out in Los Angeles. You guys see this? I got to tell you, Karen Bass, who obviously gets tipped off as to what ICE is doing. And although I haven't heard anybody get into this, obviously she staged an event based on the confidential information she was given. You saw this event with the border agents in MacArthur Park in Los Angeles. And I'm assuming this is the MacArthur Park from the song, right? Donna Summer and Richard Harris both had hit records of MacArthur Park. I like both versions, but I've always liked the Richard Harris version of MacArthur Park a little bit better than the Donna Summer one, but they're both very good. But Karen Bass showed up at that event with the Border Patrol at MacArthur Park. How else would she know to be there unless she got the intel from the LAPD to be there to try to make a stunt out of it? And the way that it was being presented by Karen Bass and others is that they went out there on horseback and others, heavily armed, masks and everything else, to go to a park where there were children to terrorize the children. And I saw a lot of footage on X yesterday of that you didn't see in the news of what MacArthur Park is really like, okay? And it's MacArthur Park is a place where the illegal homeless live. And not just homeless, I mean hardcore drug addicts. I mean, it's pretty scary. I mean, I wouldn't go to MacArthur Park, and either would you. The footage I saw was terrifying. And while it was reported in the local news in LA, because I watched the local news accounts of it this morning before I went on the air, they said they didn't make any arrests. But what they did is they forced everybody out just by their presence, and a lot of illegals won't be showing up there. And Karen Bass made a big stunt about this, and the Democrats are putting up a lot of resistance. Homan said they have to deport 7,000 a day just to deport those who were brought in under Biden. That's a lot, and our numbers are far below that of what they're actually doing. And I will tell you, when I saw that footage of the Border Patrol going across there, I'd never seen anything like that in an American city before. But because everyone has a high definition 4K camera in their pocket, we see a lot of things that have been going on for a long time that we hadn't seen before. The Rodney King incident, the reason that became such a big deal, it wasn't the first police beat down of a suspect on a traffic stop. It was the first time one had been caught on videotape like that. And back during the Rodney King days, not many people owned video cameras. And even that one, if you go back to the Rodney King tape, it was not that good. And even though it was at night, today with your iPhone camera, right, you have the ability to get very good footage even in darkness. And if that were today, you would have pristine footage. Back in the Rodney King days, that video camera was probably on the guy's shoulder like the old TV cameras. It was, be my guess, it was probably a camcorder when you go back to those days with it, those big video cameras that had a full-sized VHS in it. And now that everybody has cameras in their pockets, you see things that you normally would never have seen that have been going on forever. And you see it in such high quality video because the cameras are so good on the phones. There's no, it's insane. So a lot of things may look menacing and terrifying and outrageous. These are nothing new. It's just you're seeing things for the first time. And then, there's been all these attacks by leftists on ICE agents, on local police and other federal agents that are assisting ICE in these deportations. And what they've really been doing is trying to murder them. This is out of Texas. This is the U.S. attorney in Texas. Wow. Mandatory minimum of 10. Okay, yeah, I mean, an ambush of law enforcement. And they have released footage, and there are mostly non-Hispanic. They're mostly white liberals, male and female. Let's see here, 3, 4, 5, 6 are female. So 6, 7, 8, 9, and 4 are male. All but, let's see here, because I'm just going by appearance, all but 4 of them look to be white, and the others, the 4 are Hispanic. So you have 4 Hispanic looking, and then the rest of them are as white as I am, white anarchist liberals. And this is what law enforcement is going up against. This is why they've got to wear masks so they can't be doxxed. This is why they have to have overwhelming numbers and overwhelming gear and weaponry, even the horses that they were at MacArthur Park on yesterday, because all of these things are, of course, for their protection, and they need to be, look what they're dealing with. A planned ambush of federal officers that are armed, that's pretty hardcore stuff. This is revolutionary activities. This is Black Panther in the 1960s like activity. This has now become domestic terrorism is what this is. And they need the numbers, they need the weaponry and all of that and the horses as an intimidation against these attackers, because that's pretty scary when they come along. But make no mistake about it, the left, this is domestic terrorism. And I think it's very important to know that these are your typical white liberals, most all of them. 3, 4 of them look like they might be Hispanic. But the rest of them are as white as a saltine cracker, just like me. Some of them are even whiter than me, because I'm in Florida and we got some sun. So really, who's opposing ICE, right? Is it the Hispanics? Is it the illegal migrants? Or is it the American left, Democrats, leftist, white leftist? And if you look at this arrest, it's white leftist. All right, now if you're on hold, hang in there. You're listening to Florida's longest running radio show, The Steve Kane Show, on the radio since 1977. My name is Brian Craig. We'll be back with your calls after this. We'll be back shortly, guys. Come on. Oh boy. Come on, Sagwa. This is my daughter's cat, Sagwa. $30. We'll be back. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. You're listening to the Steve Kane Radio Show. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian, it's Mike from Houston. How are you?
Hey, Mike. What's up?
Hey, yeah, so about your theory. So, you do make some good points. You do connect some dots that I was not aware of. The limited amnesty, for example, and the decision to reverse, the president's decision to reverse himself and supply Ukraine with arms.
Uh-huh.
But to me, the only fly in the ointment, to me anyway, is time. And time being of the essence. You know, President Trump has to move quickly to get rid of the deep state. And if I'm reading your theory correctly, it sounds like what he's going to do is pick these people off, you know, in ones and twos, you know, in the background. And I'm thinking, just cut the head off the Hydra. Drop the client list, because those are the progenitors of the deep state. Those are the people that get these people in positions of power and get them.
So what are you saying? You're saying that this thing that the list doesn't exist is just a misdirection?
No, I think the list does exist, and in fact, I think Epstein's valet, said that he saw the black book.
No. I think the list exists too. No. I think the list exists. But Pam Bondi's even told us it was on her desk.
Oh.
So why did they say it doesn't exist? And Trump obviously signed off on that with his praise of Cash and Bongino yesterday afternoon.
I have no clue. I have no clue. It's just it's like having the carpet kind of pulled out from underneath you. Because for 6-8 years now, we've been hearing about Epstein, his island, the list and all this, and then suddenly it doesn't exist. I don't know. It's a real haymaker. Mm-hmm. But anyway, that's just what but I will say, yeah, your theory, you know, there's some merit to it, and I like how you connected the dots. But like I said, for me, the only thing is timing of the essence. Now, maybe maybe he is going to continue to pick these people off in the background without a lot of fanfare or notoriety. Maybe that's the game plan.
Yeah.
But like I said, to come out and say, oh, the client list doesn't exist. And I'll tell you something about the interview I watched with Dan Bongino and Kash Patel. Boy, they did not look happy.
No.
Dan Bongino looked like he was furious. And then Kash Patel, he looked extremely uncomfortable, like he was being forced to say something he did not want to say.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
I'll say this much. In Trump, I trust. And so I know that's going to upset a lot of people.
Absolutely.
New Jersey Jay and never Trump or Steve. But I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Always.
This guy always has a plan.
Always.
So,
yeah.
But anyway,
all right. Well, I appreciate the call. You make some good sense. And, here's the thing. You've always got to trust in Trump. And here's the thing. Trump, look at what Trump experienced in the 4 years he was out of the White House. Multiple assassination attempts, the lawfare. What he's doing is to prevent that from being the rest of his life when he leaves the White House this time. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Daniel from New York again. Sorry
No, it's once per day. It's once per day. Once per day, Daniel in New York. Okay, now I wanted to share something with you. I got something from the 5. I'm going to get to that later. Did any of you catch Tucker Carlson's interview with the president of Iran yesterday? Oh my goodness. I watched it, and I'm going to play you one clip of it, then we'll talk about it. Tucker asked him about the death to America chants, right? That we always are hearing from the Iranians. So this is Tucker asking the question, and then you're going to hear through a translator the president of Iran's answer to Tucker. Listen. Oh, hold on, let me cue it up here. Okay, here we go. Well, Soleimani. They organize, they get others to do their bidding. Okay, so I watched this interview that Tucker did. It was, frankly, terminally boring. It was very weird. I saw Tucker in a way that I've never seen him before. And the way that I would describe the interview, and this is the highlight of the interview, death to America doesn't really mean death to America. Oh, okay. I get it now. Now I get it. You guys don't really mean it. Oh, since you don't really mean it. The interview, I know a lot of people, because I heard some people giving a little analysis of this. They said he looked scared, and there's good reason to be scared of the Iranians, since they're behind all the terrorism in the world. But that's not how I read it. I saw it a little differently. I don't know what arrangement that Tucker had or how he arranged for this interview, if they came to him. I don't know. But I've seen interviews like this before, and it looked to me, and I'm not saying that he was paid to do the interview. However, it looked like an infomercial interview. It looked like, to me, that he had a list of questions that the Iranians had in advance, and it was just a showpiece. It was a scripted play that we were watching. It looked like an infomercial type interview, a scripted interview. It was not the normal kind of interview you would expect from Tucker Carlson at all. Now, I know there's some handicaps with a translator and all, but it just was not. I've never seen Tucker like this before. When he was given an answer, he just accepted it and moved on to the next question, no matter how stupid it was. I mean, this is the big one. Death to America doesn't really mean death to America. Oh, okay. He asked him questions about the nuclear program and some other things. But it was an infomercial. I don't mean to say that in that he was paid, because I don't know. I don't know that he was. I'm not suggesting he was paid. If it comes out he was, it would explain some things. But it was certainly an interview and a style that seemed like an infomercial, like he was interviewing someone that they had had an agenda. And the agenda, if you look at the president of Iran, he's a geeky little guy. He was too small for the frame. They had so much headroom that he looked like a tiny little guy, smaller than Zelensky. He looked so unthreatening that, and the Iranians, what they got out of it was millions of people saw the president of Iran, and he looks like a weakling. He doesn't look like a threat. He doesn't look like a menace. He doesn't look dangerous. He looks like some old man who's misunderstood. And I would say that this interview that Tucker did was a great PR victory for Iran because of those things I just mentioned. And I don't know if this has done permanent damage to Tucker, unless it comes out he was paid. If he was paid for the interview and that comes out, that wouldn't be good. But the interview was so bad, and there's also a lot of other things going on in the news to distract away from it. I don't think it's doing permanent damage to him by humanizing the president of Iran. But if he continues down this road of doing interviews like this, it will have a permanent effect and damage his credibility with people. I saw no purpose in doing that interview. Most interviews, I don't do a lot of interviews. And there's a number of reasons. I mean, most of the people that you would think that I would interview are already being interviewed or have been interviewed a whole bunch of times. So, what am I going to be bringing up that you haven't heard the answer a bunch of times? Sometimes maybe even 1,000 times, 100 times, 50 times. It depends on who it is, right? So an interview has to serve a purpose. And when Tucker does interviews, he doesn't do interviews every day, but when he does interviews, typically they're with newsmakers, and he's asking things that they haven't been asked before, kind of in the style that Barbara Walters used to do in the 80s with celebrities. She'd ask celebrities questions that they didn't want to be asked, or at least that was her rep, right? And with this interview with Tucker, there was no purpose to the interview, right? He didn't ask follow-ups. He didn't press the guy. He stood there and listened and looked like a deer in the headlights for most of the interview. There was really no purpose for the interview other than as a PR victory for Iran and make their president look like some geeky guy. Now, I want to tell you guys about Dr. Appleton and his laser wave pain treatment. He rid me of pain the first time in my knee 3 years ago this month. And in all, he's relieved me of pain 6 times. My knee injury, my multiple shoulder injuries I've had from falls, arthritis, the list goes on. And I know many of you out there have gone to see Dr. Appleton over the time he's been with us for all your pains. The laser treatment works. There's no shots, no injections, no surgery, no drugs. You don't even need an appointment. You can just walk in even on Saturdays, and there's no downtime either. Not only is the laser treatment painless, you don't even feel it, and it works. I meet so many of our listeners who have been rid of their pain from Dr. Appleton, all different kinds of pain. I didn't know how many different types of pains. And sometimes people have pains in places. You're like, these poor people. It's just amazing. And when he rid me of my arthritis pain, that was, that arthritis pain I had in my hand, that was the worst. That was the pain that would almost bring tears to my eyes, where I just wanted to go to sleep. It hurt so bad. I just couldn't get rid of that pain. And arthritis pain is rough. And people have arthritis in joints all over the body. The laser treatment works with arthritis. But it also works with injuries sustained in car accidents. When you get into a car accident, you get all kinds of injuries, even if you don't have broken bones, because your body tenses up and boom. That's what caused my knee injury, which was the first pain that he rid me of, was a car accident. So if you've been in a car accident, whether you've been driving, you're a passenger, or it's an Uber or Lyft car accident, go see Dr. Appleton, okay, and say bye-bye to your pain. If you have scans or x-rays, bring them with you. He'll gladly look at them. His number is 954-973-0710. 954-973-0710. And online, AppletonCairo.com. We'll be right back. If you're on hold, hang in there, guys. We'll be back in less than a minute. If you're on hold, hang in there. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. You're listening to Florida's longest-running radio show, The Steve Kane Show. Okay, if you're on hold, hang in there. I wanted to play this clip of Jessica Tarloff from The Five. And, you know, this fits into what I was talking about earlier with this arrest of these leftists that, well, they ambushed and were trying to kill ICE agents. And what the American left have been doing is really inciting violence, which is also an insurrection because they're interrupting government business. I'm talking about Karen Bass at MacArthur Park yesterday. And I was really in shock to hear what Jessica Tarloff said on The Five. This one really blew my mind because she's on Fox News Channel. I know she's a liberal lunatic, but because she's on Fox News Channel, you'd think that there would be a little bit of common sense would come in and she wouldn't say what it is she said. And I imagine that the rest of The Five, I might play a little bit beyond what she says because I'd like to hear the response. If I were sitting at the desk with Tarloff on The Five and she said what she says here, I would be so shocked that this was happening. I don't even know if I could respond right away because sometimes things happen that are so insanely shocking. You got, what? Your brain's like, what? Listen to this. This is Tarloff yesterday on The Five. Okay, now she's accusing ICE of not just abuse, but sexual abuse of people that are in ICE detention. I mean, that's pretty bad. Oh, good for Gutfeld, okay? I mean, he's got to be like, what are you talking about? Wow. Okay, I mean, that is, that is insane for her to say. It's one thing for one of these lunatics at a protest to say this, but to say this on Fox News Channel, obviously this is not true. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't assaults happening because you've got prisoners that are locked up, and anytime there's any, and a lot of them are violent and dangerous people, so I assume there are things happening. But Jessica Tarloff, what she said, and I'm glad Gutfeld came in and nailed her down on it. What Jessica Tarloff said on Fox News yesterday was that the people that are running the ICE detention centers are doing the sexual abuse. That is some of the most irresponsible broadcasting I have ever heard in cable news, certainly on Fox News. I don't think I've ever heard someone that works at Fox News say something so above and beyond common decency and good taste. That is so far over the line. In fact, I will tell you that if I were in management at Fox News, she'd be off the air for that. And so when you have leftists, and in leftist circles, she's pretty credible because she's on Fox, she's on The Five. The Five is like #1 on Fox in their daytime, right? So they're talking to millions of people. She's not someone in a room talking to 10 people. She's talking to millions of people. And because what she said is so shocking, it's going all over the place. So these leftists that are opposing ICE, what message are they getting? They're getting from Jessica Tarloff on Fox News Channel that the people running the detention centers are sexually assaulting people inside. She should be taken off the air for that. And you don't hear me say that very often because I'm not for limiting people's speech. But you get to a point where you say things that are not just irresponsible. What she's saying here is the kind of statement that incites very bad actions from people like these 10 in Texas that were arrested. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Okay. If you're on hold, hang in there. Our number 1-888-465-2631. You get to a point, you know, when you're on the left, right, and you see how far they have to go. Now, nobody would now if there was a story or even a rumor that people inside the detention facility were physically and sexually assaulting people, that of course is very plausible, and it's something that we would want to take care of and stop. But that, you know, but Gutfeld was very smart to call her out on it. And I'll tell you another thing though, the rest of the panel there were pretty silent about it, weren't they? I mean, I would have been, if she said that to me and I'm on the panel and she's a co-host of mine, I would be fuming. You know, what she says there is dangerous. What she says there incites people to do these things that we're hearing about. And that's when you cross the line of free speech. Now, the question is, does Jessica Tarloff know what she did, right? Does she know that what she said was untrue, or does she believe it? I think she lied. I think her point, you know, her positions are not just unpopular, but are so weak that she's just saying things to try to get through a segment and make her case. Now, you know, when you're a liberal on the 5, it's tough, right? It's 4 versus 5, and you're doing it every day, and I understand things get crazy, and I don't care how much they pay these liberals. I remember Bob Beckel used to get flustered too, and Juan Williams. If you're the lone liberal and there's 4 conservatives and they're using you as a punching bag every day, 5 days a week in front of millions of people every week, you know, you lose your cool. But what Jessica Tarloff did was so over the line. And in fact, I got to tell you, with what's going on, when I say take her off the air, I'm talking about taking her off the air permanently for an irresponsible comment like that. Because what will happen is the organizers of these different groups will say, look, Jessica Tarloff, Fox News is reporting, this is what Fox News is reporting, that the people running the facilities are sexually assaulting prisoners. So these lunatics that are attacking ICE and going after these facilities with organized attacks, that's a reality to them. And it has the credibility of Fox News Channel. I'm sorry. Now, if you're on hold, hang in there. We'll take some more calls after the break. You're welcome to call in about anything I brought up on the program this morning. I'll take some calls after the top of the hour. Hopefully we can elevate the quality of the calls. Now, I want to remind you, a week from Saturday, that's July 19th, come meet me at Attorney Barry Siegel's office. My first appearance on a Saturday in many, many years. Okay, 10 a.m. at Attorney Barry Siegel's office in Boca for his Medicaid seminar. Okay, and they're very interesting. I've been to many of them. You'll get a lot of great information, and you'll also get to meet me. And I'll be there a little early so we can talk beforehand. It's from 10 a.m. to 11:30. I will get there early so we can socialize. Give the Siegel Law Group a call. They'll give you directions over the phone and to reserve your spot. 855-FLA-3782. 855-FLA-3782 and online, SiegelLawGroup.com. We'll take our break for the top and be back after this. We'll be back shortly, guys. We'll be back in 1 minute. Welcome back, everyone. Hour number 3 has begun. My name is Brian Craig. You're listening to Florida's longest running radio show on the radio since 1977, celebrating 48 years on the radio. And of course, next year, or next month, I should say, the month of August begins the 49th year. Can you believe that? Oh my goodness, 49 years next month, the month of August. Oh my goodness, crazy, huh? Time flies. All right, so I want to recap what I opened with at 6, because we got away from it, and I want to try to get the discussion back on where we started, because this is a big issue. I was watching the news coverage of everything throughout the day, and since Thursday, we've had 3 things that Trump has done that are completely outside of the things he would normally do, right? On Thursday at the Iowa rally, he talked about, he's mentioned this a few times, but it looks like he's getting ready to do it, that he's talking about a limited amnesty for illegals who were farm workers. Now, when he first started talking about this, it was a couple of weeks ago, and my immediate thought was, well, okay, they do have to maybe do that in a slow transition because so much of the food industry is dependent on illegal labor. What would that do to food cost? Or maybe even the food supply. Remember the toilet paper shortage, right? During the lockdown period. So there's so many illegals to deport. On the list of the ones you've got to deport, that would probably be down at the bottom. So I can see a transition there. Well, I was very surprised to hear it, actually, the first time I heard him say it. I heard him say it twice, and then he kind of dropped it. And then at the rally in Iowa, he made a big deal about it on the stage in Iowa. And it was a little shocking, but there's a lot of farm labor in the state of Iowa, but he's not running for office in Iowa, so what's going on here? And then, we had the Epstein files story yesterday, and then late in the afternoon, around 4 in the afternoon, 3 or 4 in the afternoon, President Trump posted on Truth Social a very long post praising the great work of Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. And he obviously did that because they were getting so much heat all day yesterday over that Epstein. No foul play, no list, case closed. And there was such a MAGA backlash against Bongino and Kash Patel. Obviously, Trump put that post out there to try to cool everybody off and get them off their backs and Pam Bondi's back and say, hey, I'm approving of this. That's obviously what happened. Then last night he was in a meeting at the White House with Netanyahu, and he told a reporter he's sending weapons to Ukraine. These are 3 things that are outside the bounds of what he would normally be doing. I mean, these are 3 things that go against the grain of everything he's run on and why we voted for him. So why is he doing it? Now, my first thought with things was, well, he made some compromises to get the big, beautiful bill through. But these three things are too big. Any one of them maybe. And the only conclusion I can come to is he's using all of this to bring down the deep state. Would be my guess. I mean, these are three major things. Very high profile conservatives are very upset with him, even suggesting doing any of these things. So why else would he be doing that? Judge Joe Brown was on Alex Jones yesterday and said that Trump was using the Epstein files and list and all that goes along with it against the deep state. And these are the people that are responsible for the lawfare against him and the assassination attempts against him. The Butler and the golf course one. Okay, so that's the only conclusion I can come to. And I know a lot of people say, well, he's betrayed MAGA, we didn't decide why we voted. I don't buy that. I don't buy that. I'm always going to follow Trump's lead because I think he's earned that. But these are things that are too high up on his list of importance just to compromise on for some petty reason. That bill would have passed anyway because we got the majority in both houses, and these Congress people would have been in big trouble if they had not passed the bill. Okay? Something bigger is in play. All right, let's see. We'll go back to the phones. The phone calls have been kind of low-level quality today, so we'll see if we can raise the bar, but that's not saying much. You're on the air.
Brian?
You're on the air.
Brian, how's it going? Hey, I would like to disagree with you about what you said about Jessica Tarloff. Can I explain why?
Okay.
All right, for one, your end is really, really low, but have you ever heard of the Stanford prison experiment?
No.
Oh, well, guess what? It was an experiment that showed how quickly ordinary people abuse power. After a while, these students at Stanford University started abusing people.
Oh yeah, I've heard of these studies when I was in school. These very academic studies, and and they've done some other studies where all of a sudden, first off, she wasn't talking. Alligator Auschwitz. They've been transporting men there. So you're telling me that the people that are running Alligator Alcatraz are sexually assaulting men?
You don't know who they've been transporting.
We don't know. No, that's what's been reported. In fact, I saw a big story today that showed the latest ones on their way, all men. Jessica Tarloff said she has no evidence, nothing, no video, no evidence, nothing, but she's heard. She's heard. And she was very specific with Gutfeld when he pressed her. And he said, are you saying, now we can agree that it's possible that other prisoners are assaulting other prisoners, right? I mean, everybody would agree with that. Many of these are hardcore felons. But Gutfeld pressed her, and what Jessica Tarloff said, the people that are running the detention centers are sexually assaulting the detainees.
Brian, when they conducted this experiment, within 24 hours, the quote-unquote guards were psychologically torturing the prisoners.
But when in those instances that you're talking about, okay, I'm not 100% familiar with the study you're talking about, but when I was in school and when I was in college, they would go over some of these studies, and it was probably one of the ones you're talking about because it sounds familiar. I just don't remember the name of it. You're not talking about professional trained guards that are part of a federal law enforcement organization that are running a detention center. You're talking about, in most cases, students, and they line them up. Okay, you're prisoners and you're guards, and they create a situation to make these things happen.
Brian, it absolutely has to do with what's going on with real world abuses like what are done in Alligator.
And she didn't say Alligator Alcatraz. Okay, so you're telling me that not only are there the people running these detention centers are sexually assaulting the prisoners, that there's a cover-up involved.
I didn't say anything about sexually assaulting you.
Well, that's what she said. No, you said I agree. You said you agree with Jessica. Hold on. You said you agree with Jessica Tarloff, and she said sexually abused. She said sexually abused.
Okay. They're abusing the prisoners, period.
Well, that abuse, what abuse is in the eye of the beholder.
So they have,
when you say abuse, when you say abuse, what do you mean by abuse? Do you mean beating them up? What is abuse to you?
Oh my gosh, multiple things. I mean, psychologically torturing them.
What does that mean? Give me a specific example of the abuse.
I'm giving you specifics. But
No, that's a vague. Psychological abuse is vague. Give me like a specific thing. Are they setting up gladiatorial fights and betting on them? Are they raping them? Are they beating them up?
Can I give you specifics?
Yeah.
Like humiliating them, denying them bathroom access.
Oh, please.
Forcing them with like degrading tasks.
You know, right now, do you understand right now, if I had to go to the men's room, I would be denied bathroom access. I can only go to the men's room during commercial breaks. I'm denied bathroom access 4 times an hour. That's not abuse. All right, take care. See how far you have to go. Now, let me play. Now, for those of you just tuning in, I played this in the last hour. I want to play this for those that are just tuning in. This is Jessica Tarloff yesterday on the 5. And Gutfeld came in and really called her out. Listen. Okay, you hear that? And sexual abuse, she said. Right? You notice, you know, we talk a lot about the talking points of the left. She said exactly what he said, what the caller said, minus the Stanford thing. You've never heard of that happening before? Well, of course there's been abuses in prison. So since there's been abuses in prison in the past, she's just throwing it out there that these prisoners are being sexually abused by the people running the detention centers? Come on. No question, she should be removed from the air for that. That is the incitement of violence against these. All these insurrection acts in Los Angeles, right? Violence. This arrest I was talking about earlier. When you have somebody with her reach and using the credibility of Fox News Channel, and they're telling people that their dads and their mothers and their daughters are being sexually assaulted by the guards. Are you not inciting them to go and try to rescue them? Of course you are. If you're on hold, hang in there. We'll take our break and be right back. Hey, Barry, it's Brian. Hey, Barry, are you ready for us? Or not? Okay, not a problem. We'll make it up later this week. We'll cover. All right, take care. Bye. He can't do his call in. He's in a meeting. All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. You're listening to Florida's longest running radio show on the radio since 1977. If you're just tuning in, we've covered a lot. Call us on hold, standby. Our number is toll-free, 1-888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air once, twice. All right, you missed your chance. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Brian, hi. Good morning.
Yep.
Hey, IB.
Hey, IB.
Man, I can't stand that Jessica Toloff. It's not like, these people are not in a room together. I mean, like...
Well,
hold
on, IB. I'm answering all the phone numbers that are coming in. I'm sorry. The phones are ringing off the hook. All right, go ahead. You can't stand Jessica Toloff. What?
Because the premise of what she's saying, it always goes back to a source or I heard, so that they can make up anything they want as usual.
Well, you know what
my
concern with Jessica is this. I have two problems with the Five, right? I don't like Jessica Tarloff, so I don't watch it. I saw this online and went and pulled it up. But one thing that they do on the Five, they write down, the regulars, they write down everything they say. You can see them looking down at the desk and reading off the paper. So
of course, nothing comes organic. They're told what to say, period.
So did Jessica Tarloff have this written down on her notes, and did it go through any editorial process before it went on the air? Or did she just...
Probably was...
Yeah.
She probably was late to work, and they just threw it in her hand and say, "Hey, go with this." And she probably didn't even read it one time. These things can happen, but look, Trump now has the Hoover file in this Epstein thing. I always thought it didn't make any sense for them to keep talking about it when we have more bigger issues in the world. But however, Trump, and I quote, "I will obliterate the deep state." Okay, so if he can use the names on that, remember Epstein has a log on the flight. You must sign in. We know Bill Clinton has been on that log many times. So the point is, if he can then use, and Steve Kane and we talked about 2 or 3 weeks ago. The first time he used the word blackmail. Steve Kane was the one that said that, and then I was like, whoa, I didn't think of it that way. So imagine Trump having his own Hoover file now, and then we can use this information to get rid of the people in the deep state.
Well, if President, let me tell you, if President Trump has the Epstein file in the Epstein list, and it's been a long time since Epstein's been in circulation, so a lot of these guys are pretty old. They may not be in circulation anymore, but many of them may be. And he's using that to get his goals achieved. I have no problem with that. After everything they've done.
As well as the truth about some guy who hangs himself with a material that doesn't exist in real jail.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have the it's called.
Hey, IB, I appreciate the call. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go through the whole thing, but would you have a problem if Trump was using the Epstein files against these people? Do a little bit of a shakedown to get his agenda done? I wouldn't. All right, you're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Brian from Deerfield.
Hey, Brian, what's up?
Hey, Brian, how are you today? I think yesterday when I called Brian, we were talking a little bit, and I mentioned that I still have confidence in, Bondi and Kash Patel and Bongino, and especially Donald Trump. And I mentioned that I thought something bigger was taking place. I don't, we talked a little about it yesterday. I think we're seeing the development of a major inflection point. I think something very big is taking place. I don't want to go into detail on that, but I think we're going to see some amazing chess moves being made here that we're going to look back and say, wow, that was really something. I think.
Yeah.
The events are, I think, going to be fairly broad-based. I mean, Ukraine, I think, is one. But I would even go as far, and I mentioned occasion where I talk a little bit about Brazil. I think there's a major event about to take place here that we're going to be involved in, too. So he's making a lot of moves. I agree with moves, I think, against the deep state. And like I say, this won't just be a small thing. I think it's going to be one of the inflection points we'll look back.
My whole premise, and if you guys go back and listen to the first 30 minutes of today's show in the 6 o'clock hour, I go into a lot more detail than I've been doing in this segment because I don't want to repeat myself in the first hour. But but if everything President Trump is doing is spectacular, shutting down the border, the deportations, the tariffs, he just made and he sent out those letters yesterday. So we have tariff agreements with every country in the world now. You know, all these things are great. But if the deep state is not removed from power, everything will go back to normal when he leaves office. On top of the fact that they're going to harass him for the rest of his life. So I think out of his agenda, what is higher up on his agenda than any of these other things is removing from power the deep state. And if he is making some compromises on all of these things to accomplish that, I think it's a good deal.
Well, you know, not just the tariffs, but now we have leverage.
Yeah.
We have financial leverage over all these countries, which is amazing, an amazing accomplishment that people don't really talk about. Watch this little thing. We are supporting the duly elected. I feel the duly elected administration in Brazil, and I think Trump is going to take a big stand on this.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be something to watch, But yes, I think it's an inflection point. I think it's bigger than people think. And the completion of all those tariffs and the agreements made, now we got the leverage, now we got...
And I just can't believe how many people are saying that they're saying that Trump has betrayed MAGA. I mean, after everything he's been through, why would he do that now?
No, he wouldn't.
No.
That's why you really have a sense something bigger is taking place. We know Trump is a chess player. Mm-hmm. We know he's a brilliant chess player.
Yeah.
And on the board, the global board, he is at his best. And I think we're going to see some amazing occurrences this month of July. This month of July will be very, very amazing.
We're coming up on the is it this weekend, 1 year since they shot him in Butler? Isn't it this weekend? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he hasn't forgotten that. I guarantee you that too.
Nope.
So the movement against the deep state, I think, is ongoing, and I think we're going to see some major chess moves being made.
All right, Brian and Deerfield, take care. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, it's Renee from Harlem.
Hey, Renee.
Yeah, I just wanted to interrupt your white power hour, redneck radio hour, and I just wanted to bring you up to speed. The Black Panthers were by no means a domestic terrorist group, as you so eloquently elevated. The only terrorist groups are your boy, the Ku Klux Klan. That's his buddy.
First off, I've told this to you before. Steve Kane and I were friends with Eldridge Cleaver, who was one of the top Black Panthers back in the 60s, okay? And they had organized the Black Panthers. When Martin, and I remember Steve and I were out to dinner with Eldridge Cleaver, and he said when Martin Luther King was killed, we thought this was the revolution, that the blacks were going to rise up, and the Black Panthers organized that ambush of those police in California, and that's when they got busted and everything fell apart for them. But they were indeed domestic terrorists. But why are we concerning ourselves with 1968 when we're in 2025?
Yeah, let's talk about 2025. George Floyd. What about that? Wasn't he a cop? Wasn't he a cop that choked the man to death?
What does that got to do with anything we're talking about, Renee?
You have no idea what you're talking about. That's what I have to do.
No, I do. You're just so angry and racist that it clouds your thinking.
Stupid. That's the thing.
All right, I appreciate the call. I mean, I'm not going to just sit here and be screamed at and called names constantly by an angry guy who calls me to just relieve his anger. You know what I mean? Like those people that punch pillows, he calls me and barks things at me, and that's how he gets things off his chest. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your name? You're on the air. Where are you calling from?
Hey, it's Jerome, calling from your mom's house.
Oh, okay. That's nice. How's Mom doing? Tell Mom I said hello. I want to tell you guys about the free doorbell camera offer from Sloman's. This is just a great offer. You get that doorbell camera for free. These cameras work so well. They really, truly do. And you see them all the time. You just don't realize it. A couple examples I give that have been in the news. There was a lot of, when those Malibu fires were going on months ago, you saw a lot of footage of fires in front of people's front doors. Those weren't idiots standing in front of their house recording things on their iPhone. That was footage that was being captured off people's doorbell cameras. They get the footage on their cell phone and then they put it on social media or send it to the news. That's how good those cameras are. And you can get one of those cameras for free. Slomin's is going to give you a free doorbell camera that connects directly to your cell phone with the installation of your Slomin Shield. And remember, you get a notification on your phone every time there's movement at your front door, no matter where you are. Slomin's is also going to give you a free customized home security system and professional installation when you use their low-cost central station monitoring. You get an LED touchscreen, a motion detector, 10 contacts for the doors and windows, a lifetime warranty, a backup battery, plus a free doorbell camera with the installation of your Slomin Shield. Give them a call, toll free, 833-283-5050. 833-283-5050. That's 833-283-5050. We'll be right back.
Said that Superman is an immigrant story, that it is political. MAGA today was getting a little upset that he called Superman an immigrant. I wanted to get your reaction.
Somebody needs a hug.
We'll be back in just a few seconds. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. You're listening to The Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest running radio show. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
It's not nice to hang up on people.
Well, and I'm going to do it again. All right. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is David in Royal Palm Beach.
Hey, David. What's up?
I listened to, I think it was your last caller, the Rhodes Scholar, Harvard graduate that called you a racist and everything.
Oh, Renee from Harlem?
Whatever. I just was calling to say, I wish these people would understand that what they're dealing with really started in the 60s with Johnson and this gather all the black people, and it's developed into a disease of hatred. And these people are just the victims of it. I feel sorry for some of them until they get crazy like they did with you.
Well, I'll tell you know what's going on. You know what's going on. This is the deal. Brit Hume, who he's on Fox News, he used to host that Bret Baier show years ago, right? He was the White House correspondent for Fox when Clinton was president. And Brit Hume's a jerk. He's a big never Trumper, but he said one thing that was a very good, true statement. This is when Obama was president, and there was that during the Trayvon Martin event here in Florida, and he's like, "Oh, if I had a son, he would look like Trayvon." And Brit Hume said, "Obama uses race as a weapon or as a shield, depending on which purpose better suits his end goals, as a weapon or as a shield." And what you have with a lot of people, like Renee from Harlem, and he's not alone. You hear a lot of these jokers on the phones here. You're dealing with hardcore black racists that hate white people like the plague. And what they do is they use these incidents like Trayvon or Derek Chauvin, and they use this to justify their racism, to call in and just bark at white people and just be open about their racism. And it's really gotten old.
And it's gotten sick. I remember hearing about a couple friends that went to a place to watch a football game. They've known each other their whole lives. One guy happens to be black. They got into an argument about the game, got into a fight, and the next thing you know, they're talking to the police about race charges.
Mm-hmm. Well,
it's just insane. It has nothing to do with race.
What's happened in America, we got to this point where we were in a post-racial situation. There's always going to be people that don't like you because of all kinds of things, right? But we had pretty much wiped that out. Racism, anti-Semitism, all this hate, anti-gay stuff. But the left, see, the Democrats always promote these divisions because that's how they stay in power, through divisions, racial divisions, gender divisions, sexuality divisions, religious divisions. And you look at all this hate, it's always coming from the left. Always.
Yes. And one thing that sounds a little extreme, but I think it's called for, is what they do when they organize these things and sit down and think about it and then direct it and cause these explosions of, hey, they should be charged with crimes against humanity. They're doing it on a worldwide scale nowadays,
That's why I was talking about this thing with Jessica Tarloff. Jessica Tarloff is saying that the federal agents with immigration that are in charge of these immigration detention centers are sexually assaulting prisoners. These facilities are under attack. That's why all this happened in Los Angeles a couple weeks ago. And when she goes on national television and says the people inside there are being held prisoner and they're being physically and sexually assaulted, she is not just going over the line and saying something in bad taste. She's inciting and justifying violence against these people. And that's where you get to the line that I think she should be taken off the air at the 5 for what she said, in my opinion.
Well, I actually
some of these people that just keep saying things that are overtly wrong and just lies. I mean, these people should be held accountable for that, but they're not going to be.
Yeah, that's right.
And
All right.
It's a shame.
All right, appreciate the call. Take care. Take care. All right, so smart callers out there. They're few and far between on the phones today, but we've heard from some pretty good people. If you're on hold, hang in there. Our number is toll-free, 1-888-465-2631. I don't spend too much time I don't watch television news hardly at all, and unless there's like breaking news. When there's breaking news, I'll watch it, but even then I watch it online. Today at 11 o'clock, President Trump is having a cabinet meeting. And like all the others, it's gonna be live on television, which is really truly amazing. This cabinet meeting today, though, is probably going to be the hottest cabinet meeting we've had so far, right? Because there's a lot of issues going on, and they're going to ask him about them. Elon's third party, the Epstein list, all these things. Zohan in New York. So, and this, and it's going to be live on television. And I will probably not even watch that on the news. I will probably watch it on a live feed from there, uninterrupted, and catch it. And, the problem with the news is none of the news really reports news anymore. They just sit there and give you their opinions about the headlines in the news. And you see this in the media. Every like she's the punching bag over there, Jessica Tarloff. But things are so partisan with her, she's gone over the line further than anyone ever has in the history of Fox News. The only other time that someone said anything on the air at Fox that I can remember, that was somebody that worked there. They've had guests that have said, remember Ward Churchill on O'Reilly, what he said after 9/11? Holy smokes. That was crazy, but he didn't work for Fox. The only other time I heard someone say something at Fox that went over the line is when Jesse Waters was talking about letting the air out of his future mistresses and current wife's tires. That was pretty bad. All right, that was pretty bad. I must admit, that's pretty bad. But what she did is the incitement of violence, because the violence is actually happening. And there you're in a whole nother place. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, what's going on?
Not much. Certainly not with you. Well, before we break, I want to talk to you guys about Coastal Weight Loss Secret. You've been hearing me talk about Coastal Weight Loss Secret for quite some time. I've lost over 35 pounds. And for those of you who were tuning in yesterday, you may have heard me mention, I went to a 4th of July party on the 4th of July, and it was with people from our cruise, our MAGA cruise. And I had not seen them since our cruise, which was in March. As soon as I got there, first thing, someone said, Brian, you're wearing skinny jeans. That's right. And, a lot of you watch me maybe online on YouTube, and you can see the weight loss. But like anything else, when you're on television or something like I am online every day, that adds weight to you. I'm thinner in person than I look on YouTube. And when people see me in person, like, what? Wow. And yeah, I'm wearing the skinny jeans. With Coastal Weight Loss Secret, many patients lose 20 to 30 pounds in a month. And I lost the 25 pounds was my goal. I lost that in less than a month. I lost about a pound a day. I lost my goal in less than a month. And overall, I lost over 35 pounds. Give them a call. Now, when you call, make sure you tell them you heard about them on the True Oldies channel. 561-247-6300. 561-247-6300. And online, coastalweightlossecret.com. But if you've noticed with the left, and you've heard me talking about this because I've noticed it on the phones, I've been talking to liberals through so many different news cycles with different topics over the years. And, liberals in general have a little screw loose and have no problem lying to try to promote their agenda and have talking points and such. I mean, that's just part of liberals, okay? But we've gotten to a new level with liberals, and Jessica Tarloff is that. You heard it with Renee. Jessica Tarloff's at the Renee level. They're just lashing out and saying crazy things now for any desperate attempt to get some type of support. Look at what happened with the left with this tragedy in Texas. Now, you may have noticed I haven't talked about any of this tragedy in Texas. And the reason I haven't is because the tragedy is so sad that I've not been reading the stories about it. Those little girls that all lost their life. There's another video I saw that, if you're on hold, hang in there. We'll take some calls after the break. I saw a video online this morning. All those little girls that are gone. They have video of them having a party and having fun playing games just a few hours before they were all gone. And the story is just so tragic that I can't even read the stories, and I certainly can't talk about it. But look at how the left reacted over the weekend. They turned it into a partisan event. They were blaming Doge. They were blaming Trump. They were blaming they didn't have enough, all the cuts. They didn't have enough people at the weather service. Yes, they did. They had more people at the weather service. But look at how the left took this tragedy where there's at least 100 that are no longer, sadly, with us. Okay? And how they've turned that into a partisan thing. I've never seen the liberals so universally in a groupthink this unglued. Not that they've never been, they're always wrong. They always lie to you, okay? And they always have that's normal. But there's a level of anger and inappropriateness that's at a scale I've never seen before. And we've been through some rough news cycles over the years on this program. All right, callers on hold, you hang in there. We're going to take our last break of the day. We'll be back with the Gold Report, and there's more to talk about, and your calls right after this. Hey there, hold on. Hello? 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 Okay, hold on. Hey, it's Brian. All right, hold on. All right, welcome back. I'm Brian. You're listening to Florida's longest running radio show, The Steve Kane Show, on the radio since 1977, celebrating 48 years on the radio. And it's time to check in with William Youngerman from the offices of William Youngerman Incorporated with today's Morning Gold and Precious Metals Report. William Youngerman, how the metals looking today?
Metals looking solid. The market yesterday was indicative of what we've seen for the last month or two, and that is testing the $3,300 range of gold, the low, and it did dip below 3,300 to 3,295 on the low, and then came back very quickly to recover all the way up to $3,344 before closing out the day at $3,335.30, which was actually up $1.30. Silver down 17 cents yesterday, closing at $36.68 the ounce. Platinum lost $22 at $1,370, and palladium was down $24 at $1,111. Overnight, we saw gold trade in a range of $33.19 all the way up to $33.46. Right now, we're down $9.30 at $3,326 the ounce for gold. Silver down 3 cents at $36.65. Silver seeming to build a very strong base around that $36 number. Platinum up $10 at $1,380 the ounce. while palladium is up $9 at $1,120. So the markets are still very firm, still trading in ranges that we've seen for quite a while now, building a strong base for our summertime, and just take advantage of any of the dips.
And I imagine, William, that with these great prices on all the metals, people are coming in with old jewelry and things around the house made of the metals and are in shock at how much this old, ugly, broken jewelry is worth.
Yeah, they really are. They really are.
Yeah.
They're cleaning out the cabinets of clutter and things and bringing in stuff that they don't wear anymore, and they're amazed at what the value of the jewelry and broken jewelry and old watches and so on is bringing them.
Yeah, and remember, William Youngman offers free appraisals that all of you can take advantage of, and he opens up at 10 a.m. His address is 150 East Palmetto Park Road in Boca, on the first floor of the Bank of America building, just east of US 1 Federal Highway, on the south side of Palmetto Park Road. You can give him a call toll-free, 1-800-327-5010, 1-800-327-5010, and online, WilliamYoungerman.com. That's WilliamYoungerman.com, and you'll find both his phone number and address there. All right, William Youngerman, we'll talk tomorrow.
Okay, have a great day. Thank you.
All right, take care. I just want to say a couple things. This big division that I've seen since the Epstein story yesterday. You've got to stick with Trump here on all of this. This third party business with Elon Musk. This is such a dangerous thing for us to get involved in. And I know there were some polls yesterday that said that there hasn't been a third-party candidate that's won in however long, and they only they have 4% of the vote. Here's the thing: we have a razor-thin majority in the Congress. Historically, whatever party is in power in the White House loses seats in both houses during the midterms. This is the first midterm where we have a chance to gain, and we have a chance to gain for a number of reasons, but mainly because President Trump's doing everything he promised. He got everything he promised in the big, beautiful bill, what he's done at the border. And there's going to be a massive ceremony. One day you're going to wake up and find out the border wall's done, the Great Wall of Trump is done. You notice Trump doesn't talk about the wall? They're working on it and finishing it, and he's not talking about it so that when it's finished, it's a big surprise and a big deal, and he'll be down there. There's the trade deals. There's so many great things going. And when the big, beautiful bill, as it goes into effect, people are going to start to feel and know that they've got more money in their pocket, especially lower income workers with the no tax on tips and overtime. And when we get into tax time, senior citizens are going to realize that they've got this massive deduction. They're either going to get a tax return that they normally do not get, or their tax return is going to be a lot larger than it usually is. So when the big, beautiful bill goes into effect, on top of all the other things that Trump's accomplished, we're going to go into the midterms with more positivity behind the incumbent than you typically have. We got a chance to really gain. And all of this division that's been going on in the MAGA movement, a lot of it, the Epstein thing did not help. Don't misunderstand me. That doesn't, I get it. But a lot of this division is simply because there's a lot of high-profile people that are saying and doing things so that they'll be talked about and go viral. And a lot of them are well-known, Charlie Kirk and Bannon and others. And I like these guys, you like these guys. But they're doing a lot of things so that they can get attention. And that attention that they're so desperate to get for whatever reason is causing division in a movement that really is united. I mean, look at the polls that President Trump has. He is polling over 60% among Republicans. He has higher approval ratings among Republicans than any president since, even greater than Reagan, it was reported by CNN last week. With all of these divisions going on. So we want to keep that going, not get involved in these divisions. Okay, I'm going to take, we're getting close to the end, but I'll see. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Brian, I want to speak with you off the air, if possible. This is Jim Nadell, Brian.
Oh, my goodness. A voice from the past.
I want to talk with you.
I'm going to put you on hold.
Yes.
I'm going to put you on hold. It's just I'm not going to get involved in a conversation, but I haven't talked to you like in 20 years, and then I hear from you, and it gets a little concerning. So I'll put you on hold, but you hang in there, and I'll be with you in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, off the air.
No, it'll be off the air. Don't worry.
Patient, so
Don't worry, but I'm on the air. You got to wait. Right. I can't talk to you for 10 minutes, Jim. Okay, hold on. He was with us on the old WFTL, for those that are wondering. I am shocked to hear from him. All right, that is something. Oh, by the way, Pam Bondi's having a press conference later today, and we got the cabinet meeting coming up, and the cabinet's going to be there. Pam Bondi will be there, Hegseth will be there, so it's a big press conference with everybody and the president, and that's around 11 o'clock. We're going to get a lot of answers and questions and craziness going on there. All right, now I want to touch base with Ian from Cruise and Travel Depot. In March we're leaving on our next MAGA cruise. It's the 10th anniversary MAGA cruise, which is hard to believe is right around the corner. Ian, how you doing?
Good morning.
Oh man, now our next cruise is absolutely amazing. Now I remember we're going on the Celebrity Beyond, and we're going to Antigua, which I've never been to before. Where else are we going?
We're going to Tortola in the British Virgin Islands and the Bahamas.
Well, I'm very excited about it, I got to tell you. Not just because it's our 10th anniversary. I'm excited about Antigua because in Antigua, we have a shore excursion that is incredible. And you actually did something. You sent some people on a test run of our excursion just to scout it out a little bit. And, we always take a catamaran trip on these cruises. We've done them for the last few cruises. But this one's extra special. Can you tell people about it?
So this one is going to be on a really luxurious boat, and it's an all-day excursion. So plan to be on the boat with us, and it's going to take us around the island of Antigua, visiting some of the historic spots, and then they're going to serve us a lobster lunch. Now, if you don't eat shellfish like I don't, there'll be alternatives.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, And, the thing about these cruises, we're coming up on our 10th anniversary with this cruise. We leave in March on the Celebrity Beyond. Some of my best friends that I have are people that have been going on our cruises. And Ian and I, we got together at a 4th of July party that one of our regular cruises, Murphy, had. And it was like being on the cruise, except the only thing we didn't have was the cruise ship, right? I mean, on the 4th of July.
Didn't have the cruise ship, and we didn't have the premium package, but we can sort that out.
Yeah, that's okay. But when you go on our cruises, you make a lot of lifelong friends, and a lot of people have become lifelong friends from our group that have met on the cruises. Not just me and Ian meeting people, but people that are in the group that have become friends on their own apart from the cruise. It's a great group. We have a lot of fun. And it's really personal. When we go on these cruises, we have dinner together every night. We do shore excursions together. We have onboard activities. And those of you that have been on our past cruises, Ian and I have been working on a lot of things to make the experience on board much different and unique than on our past cruises too. And we'll tell you guys about that as time goes on. But you've gotten us some really good deals on this one. We've been with Celebrity for many, many years. And when people call you, they're going to get really good deals on this cruise.
Oh, the pricing's amazing this time around, especially. I mean, we've got veranda rooms for cheaper than ocean views. I got a call the other day for a quote for an ocean view. I said, why would you take that with our group rates for a balcony or, several $100s less? Yeah,
the veranda is kind of like a balcony. It's a little different than the standard balcony, but it's still a balcony. And you're getting that for less than just a cabin with a window in it. So, which is great. And, we've been sailing with Celebrity for so long. We and Ian have such a great relationship with them. You were able to lock in some really good deals. Now, listen, I'm going to give you Ian's number. Give him a call, okay? And he'll give you price quotes right over the phone. The price varies on which cabin you choose and perks and everything else. But you're all invited. We leave in March, and I hope to see you all there. Ian's number is 561-244-5779. 561-244-5779. Give him a call, and we'll see you on the cruise. All right, Ian, we'll talk soon.
Have a great day, man.
All right, take care. All right, so we're coming towards the end of the program, but I'm going to tell you, I'm very curious about why Jim wants to talk to me off the air. When you haven't talked to someone in 20 years and you get a call, I got to talk to you off the air, I got to talk to you off the air. It's like, the last couple minutes of the show, it's kind of hard to focus, and it's tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, and I'm dying to know, and he's on hold, so I'll find out after, and I probably won't be able to share it with you because it sounds private. But my mind's a little distracted because of that. But I do want to say this. Coming up next month, you'll often hear me say the Steve Kane Show is the longest running radio show in the state of Florida. And next month, in the month of August, will be the 49th year of this program. And that's amazing. And as crazy as that is, I've been with the program most of those years. And I used to listen to Steve even long before I worked with him. And to be the longest running radio show in the state of Florida without any disclaimers, like the longest running radio show hosted by a woman and all this stuff, this is the longest running radio show, period. And it's probably the longest running radio show with the same host in the country as well. And that's really an amazing accomplishment that we're pretty proud of. And when you hear me say that often, longest running radio show, you hear it in some of our rejoiners, and maybe you don't think about it so much because I say it so much. But this is the longest running radio show for a lot of reasons, but mainly because you guys out there have been so loyal and supportive of the program. And, I was just thinking this morning before I went on the air, 49 years is really, truly an amazing accomplishment. So I just want to thank all of you as we are about to hit that 49th year celebration beginning, just for all your support for the program over all of these years. And one day I'll be able to talk to you guys about all the things that have gone on off the air that Steve and I had to go through to make this and keep this the longest running radio show in the state of Florida, because what goes off on the air is one thing. What happens off the air, well, that's a whole nother drama. But anyway, guys, I just want to thank you guys as we approach that. My name is Brian Craig. This is the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest running radio show. I'm going to sign off right on time so I can find out what this private phone conversation is going to be about. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. And don't miss the Trump cabinet meeting today. It's going to be around 11, and it's going to be a hot one with all these issues. All right, guys, take care. Thanks for listening. All right, we're clear. I'm going to sign off so I can take the call, all right? Make sure you subscribe.